I thought Before the Storm would end with Chloe frantically calling, over and over, desperately trying to reach someone that she would never see again. And I imagined that I would be there, sitting, helpless, unable to do anything but wait, knowing the events that were unfolding on the other end of that unanswered phone call. The desperation growing between us, parallel and unbearable. Chloe searching for her friend, and myself hoping for some other conclusion. I was sure that all of it, every raw emotion, would stem from one singular point. Rachel Amber. Her presence looming over everything. A reminder of what was lost before it even began. But it didn't quite end like that. I got the montage I'd hoped for, an uplifting ending for the characters of Before the Storm. A send-off, you could call it, that felt comforting and carefree. Or at least just enough of one so that I'd let my guard down for that one last final moment. Because after all of the credits rolled and just after I finished reminiscing over the choices that I'd made, I found myself once again in that basement, on the opposite side of the phone that I thought I'd be on, slowly zooming out with 17 missed calls from Chloe Price, soon to be 18. Only a fraction of what I can expect Chloe would be making. The flashes of light, the snaps of the camera, I hated every moment of it. And as Chloe's desperation became mine, I realized that this wasn't just her story. It was ours, and this was no proper way to say goodbye. I came into all of this knowing that Before the Storm would hurt me, and so I expected that farewell would ironically be my bittersweet goodbye to this beloved series. Especially after all of the news relating to Double Exposure and the idea of its sequel feeling more up in the air than ever. Farewell was supposed to be this glimpse into Max and Chloe's relationship before Max had moved away. Through it, I thought I'd learn what they were like as kids and that I'd see what caused them to drift apart. I knew that the death of Chloe's father played a role in this, but I thought that if anything, it would just be that final wedge that separated what was already struggling to hold itself together. And through their goodbyes to each other here, at the end of this game, I could also say goodbye to them and the franchise, just in case nothing ever continued with it. But I'd missed a key detail all those years ago when I played Life is Strange for the first time, because I never realized just how close together Chloe's dad's death and Max's moving away really were. It was less than 3 days. I got to watch as they celebrated and had fun together, catching a glimpse of Max and Chloe in their friendship's prime. I stressed alongside Max when I found out she hadn't told Chloe yet that she was moving away. And then I felt sadness as Chloe talked about all these things that they were going to do that I knew were never going to happen. And I felt relief wash over as Max and myself learned that Chloe already knew that Max was moving away. In these final moments, I watched as their friendship grew even stronger. It felt like in this moment there was nothing that could ever tear them away from each other. But then Farewell gave me a better understanding of why their relationship became what it was, and why Max never responded to any of Chloe's letters. Because their time together before Chloe's mom got home was perfect. And I couldn't ask for a better way to see friends prepare to go their separate ways. But once her mom stepped through that door, and Chloe and Max learned of what happened, their final moments together became ones of sadness, loneliness, and guilt, all tangled together. Something that could tear any one of us apart. And these were just kids. I came into all of this knowing that Before the Storm would hurt me, and this was supposed to be my bittersweet ending. When I replay the original someday, there are many moments that will carry a much heavier weight now that I've completed both Before the Storm and Farewell. But I still find myself asking why this series hit so hard for me. I've seen movies and shows that tackle darker and more emotional topics, but they don't stay with me the same way that Life is Strange has. Maybe it's the little things, the smaller interactions with objects and places that expand on the characters and the world around them. Or maybe it's the music that somehow feels nostalgic, soothing, and vulnerable, as if it's helping carry the weight of the character's emotions while wrapping me in this sense of young innocence while quietly preparing to break my heart. Or it could be the choices, because here, sure, I decide what happens, knowing that some of my choices can carry bigger consequences, but I also decide on the pacing of the entire game. I chose to explore Chloe's room, interacting with every little thing I could find, sometimes more than once, just so that I could uncover more about their lives and their bond they had when they were younger. And I chose to go directly to Rachel before her play started, ignoring almost everything backstage that I could interact with because I didn't care about it. It wasn't important to me, and in that moment, I just wanted to go and see Rachel. And there were also so many moments where I chose to sit back and reflect on things that had just happened while taking in the music of the game. And again, it was always my choice. I think it's that combination, on top of the powerful storytelling and characters, that makes this series so important to me. Because to me, Life is Strange is more than a game. It's become this story that I will carry with me, and one that's helped shape how I see storytelling. This wasn't how the video was supposed to go or how it was supposed to end. All it was supposed to be was a way for me to express some of the feelings and thoughts I still had for the game that I hadn't talked about yet. But the more I've gone through all of this, the more I've realized that I'm still not ready to say goodbye to it. At least not yet. Although I can't tell if this is related to what I brought up in my previous Life is Strange videos, or if it's because I've still got 3 out of the 6 comic books left to read and a book and a half left to get through before I've finished all of the Life is Strange quote-unquote official content. So for now, I won't be saying goodbye, and maybe even I'll start to play through them all again. You know, I can still vividly remember walking through the junkyard, the place that we had spent so much time there, Chloe and Max, and now learning here, Chloe and Rachel. And all that time, we had no idea that Rachel's body was hiding there underneath the earth, just waiting for Max to dig it up. The thought of it still makes me sick to my stomach. So I just thought I'd end this video in the same way Before the Storm decided to end both its game and DLC, by making you think about terrible things and feel bad.